Spider-Man Far From Home was definitely an okay time. I just got off a 12-hour shift at like around 8 p.m. and I was pretty depressed as usual, so I went and I caught a late night showing of it. And yeah, it was a nice time. The one word that comes to mind when I think of this movie is probably lightweight. Something that's been weird to me about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is that they go from the most accurate, pure adaptation of Spider-Man to the most outlandish, un-Spider-Man-y Tony Stark version I've yet seen. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in terms of, what makes these movies good, but subjectively I can definitely say I don't really enjoy the whole high school romance coming-of-age story that's been told in both the Tom Holland movies so far, and I don't really enjoy the huge Tony Stark angle that the character has. The only thing I can wager is that maybe they're good films for the younger people growing up who didn't grow up with the Raimi films, in that there's really basic lessons these Holland movies seem to be teaching, and that could be useful for that younger audience, or like young people that really like the MCU films. But I feel like all the lessons to be learned in both Homecoming and Far From Home are very, very basic and lightweight compared to, like the Raimi films. Far From Home is basically just a high school comedy movie with an injection of the superhero genre that grows bigger and takes over the third act. I'll say again that it's weird to watch a Spider-Man movie where the suit isn't really like cool or iconic at all, and the abilities Spider-Man has are kind of just brushed over and not used until the end of the movie. And I really don't know how to describe it, because it's the same feeling I got watching Homecoming, to a lesser extent, in that there's just nothing really awesome about Holland's presence on screen as Spider-Man. I don't really like the fact that his suit is CGI 99% of the time. It just it adds to that feeling of lightweight or weightlessness. I didn't like that his Spidey sense was kind of just like an erectile dysfunction, and it actually reminded me of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, where Peter lost his powers. But as that was like the core turning point in the film, it's not nearly as present in this story, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just kind of weird that at the end of the movie, he, I guess, just is confident enough to activate his spider sense and, beat Mysterio. Speaking of which, I did like Mysterio. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal did a good job, and I thought the Vision dreamlike scenarios were definitely the best part of the movie, and they're definitely the clips I'll rewatch on YouTube for sure. I think the conversations, however, between Peter and Mysterio were kind of oddly lame, and I surprisingly found them to be kind of poorly written. The best of the bunch was definitely the bar scene. I think that's when they kind of hit their stride and had good chemistry. Peter has this big feeling of betrayal towards Mysterio at the end of the movie, and he's got tears in his eyes and he's saying he trusted him, but it just sort of didn't work for me, because this connection between them wasn't really well established other than some really, really basic dialogue like, "Don't apologize for being the smartest person in the room." Again, I'll say the other Spider-Man 2 did the whole two smart people bonding with a whole bunch of, dumb people around them. Did that way better.
Trying to do better.
Well, being brilliant's not enough, young man. You have to work hard. Intelligence is not a privilege, it's a gift. And you use it for the good of mankind. Love should never be a secret. If you keep something as complicated as love stored up inside, it's gonna make you sick.
This is no Otto Octavius Peter Parker connection. It's not even a Norman and Peter connection, or a Harry and Peter connection. This connection between Mysterio, and I've said connection like 5 times, this connection that Mysterio and Peter have in the movie, it's just missing for me. I could probably go on and on about this film, especially the logical inconsistencies with the plot itself, but I think that's kind of missing the point. Whereas Endgame's narrative kind of heavily relies on its logic, this film does not rely on its narrative logic to work. This film is very much supposed to be a fun, light, summer popcorn flick, and it's going to be a relief for Endgame fans, and I think it accomplishes exactly that. I just personally think both Holland movies are a tad bit overrated, especially this one. I mean, it's light, it's breezy, it's often funny at times, but all of it just feels weightless. I don't think this Tony Stark MCU kind of Spider-Man is for me, and I didn't really care about that Skrull plot twist, so I think this might actually be one of my last Marvel movies, with the exception of maybe checking out Guardians of the Galaxy. I did really like seeing J.K. Simmons back, but I don't think it's enough to make me want to watch another, kind of high school comedy with some light Spider-Man themes. But of course, if the third film is going to be different from Homecoming and Far From Home, I could give it a shot, but other than that, I think I'm pretty much done with this version of Spider-Man.
Miss Brandt?
Yes.
Get me a violin. You're fired.